Okay, now welcome back. Now, just if you remember at the previous tutorial that we had, we talked about how to just create a stand file and store three important blocks of our model, which essentially they were, I'm just going to just open that once more. I just called it woman.stand. That was a must that we just call our file as .stand. We just created three blocks, which was the data for the parameters and also for the model that all is defined here based on the things that we just learned, how to just model the functions of the heights and the weights. Now I'm just going to go back to the R script which I had, and I'm just going to just go ahead to just run the model which I had. But before that, before I just go to just run the stand, I have to just make sure that I have the rstan package which I installed that previously is ready to be used. Then in order to do that, I just go to the package tab which I have. I just go to the check the rstan, which it says that that's R interface to stand is now ready to be used for fitting the model which I have. Now, in order to do that, I'm just going to call the model which I have. I'm just going to call that model A. For the model A, I'm just going to just go ahead and just call the function which is called the stand. Stand is a function that it's going to be ready to use if you have your rstan package already installed and it has a tick next to that in the left side of it. Then if you have there, I'm just going to go ahead to just press the F1 to see what arguments do we need to just incorporate inside the parentheses for the stand in order to run our model. Okay. The first one which we have, it's going to be the stand. The first argument which I have, as you can see, it comes with the file. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and fill out the first argument which is named as a file, and I just go ahead, and the file which I have, it's essentially the stand file which we created, and we designed three blocks as the data, parameters, and the model, which you can see here. And now we have to just call that file here. In case if you just wanted to just make sure that you have the right spelling, you can just go to the Files tab, and if you have your directory correctly assigned, which you have to just go to the session and just set the working directory, choose the directory, you just go ahead to choose the directories which you have installed, I should say, and you have saved your files. Then when you just go there, you see that the file's name is going to be stand, is going to be the woman.stand. However, the important thing is that you have to just put the name of your file inside, I should say, the double quotation. Then I say, okay, it's going to be the woman.stand. It's going to be the name of the file. Okay. That's going to be the first argument, a very important argument that you have to just incorporate into your stand model then. Okay. In order to just go to the next one, I'm just going to go to check for the help. You see that the next argument is going to be the one which is important, is going to be the data, which it shows that to you, the data. I'm just going to highlight that one here at the tab, which is going to be for the help menu. You see that the data essentially comes as a format for the list. That's what I have done previously here, and I have said that, okay, the data stand, which I call that data here myself, you do not have to just go ahead with the same name which I created for the object. You can choose whatever name you desire to have it. Then now, as I have just defined my data as a list, it's going to be very easy right now here. I just come here and say the data should equal to data stand. Okay, that's going to be my data. And we have also one, I should say, some other parameters that you can change it, and we are just going to change it in order to show the difference of the convergence of the method. In the next tutorials, these options that we can just normally change them, it's going to be, for example, the number of the iterations, which is the basically is going to be 2000, and also the warm-up, which essentially by the default is the minimum, I should say, of a half of the number of the iterations that you have. For example, here in that case, if we have the iterations for 2000 to just go to the posterior and the parameter space to just pick up, I should say, to the sample, then the warm-up is going to be, let's say, 1000, which is essential. That's the thing that our model finds the best, I should say, the gradient into our parameter space. Okay, we just keep the things as the thing which it is right now there, and I think at this stage, we just go ahead with the number of the iterations of 2000. However, as we are just going to check in the next tutorials, if the model doesn't converge, then we have to just go back sometimes. We have to just make some kind, I should say, tuning of the model that we have. We're going to talk about that in the next tutorials, which is essentially changing the number of the iterations and sometimes changing the, I should say, step size that we have in, I should say, in the parameter space, that it helps to just get to a convergence. Now, we just go ahead, we just assume that the number of the iterations is going to be 2000. You are just in parallel, just walking, I should say, towards the area for the convergence from 4 different directions. That's why we just have 4 chains in parallel working, and now it's going to be the time to just execute the line, to run the model, feed the data by pressing Control Enter. Okay, you see that the model is going to be run. You see that the stop sign there. If there is a problem with the codes which we have written, you should get the message. Otherwise, it takes some time before the model did some processing, and it shows that it converges to the parameter in the posterior and also in the parameter space. It takes some time. Hopefully, we do not get any error message, but let's see if it just can converge to one, I should say, one spot, I should say, in the parameter space. Okay, it takes some time. We could have just gone ahead with the iterations of, let's say, 1000. That in that case, it could have been much better. It could have taken less time. But we just went ahead with the thing, which is, I should say, with the model itself. And it's going to be with the 2000. I'm just going to stop here. And in order to show that how to manipulate and also save some time, we just go ahead, let's say, for example, with the iterations, of, I should say, of 1000. And I know that here, the warm-up, it's going to be at least half of, I should say, the number of the iteration, 500. And now, it was a good thing that we just did that, because we were able to just teach you some more stuff, and at the same time, in order to save some time, for the executions. I just executed the line by pressing Control Enter, and let's see what happens with the model that we have. It takes some time because there is some kind of processing which needs to be done to find, I should say, the gradient, I should say, the least gradient, I should say, in the model. It takes some time, and I'm just waiting to see what is the result that we get from our model then. Okay, it takes some time. I think I'm just gonna stop the recording in order to save some time. When the processing is done, I'm just gonna go back to just continue from, I should say, from where we are left. It took, I should say, a couple of seconds after when I just stopped the recording and the processing is done. You see that they have 4 chains running, the total time which it took, how much did the time took for the sampling, and how much did it time to just do the warm-up. And also you can just see a tab here which is called the viewer. Sometimes when the thing is going to be processed, you can see, I should say, the processing in the viewer tab. However, now we are done with, I should say, with the processing of the algorithm, and you see that everything seems fine. We have, I should say, we have 4 chains in our model. We have 4 chains, and from chain 1, from chain 2, from chain 3, and chain 4. And now, the thing is that we do not, it doesn't matter if you just have, I should say, that warning message is totally fine. And now we have, I should say, we have our first stand model, which is fed to our woman data sets. And now, I should say, with 1000 iterations. Now, you could have done that, I should say, with 2000 iterations. But before we do that, I'm just going to do some kind of a convergence check with you in order to see that if 1000 iterations was enough or no. We have to just do some kind of a parameter tuning to just have a better convergence, which I think that's going to be a very good topic. If we just do that on the next tutorial, then I should say, as always, as I have said, I can't wait to see you at the next tutorial then.